Hey everyone, it's Alison from Thriving While Disabled. I actually intended to say hi to everybody while I was on the trail, but I had some weird issues with Facebook. But now finally I figured it out and am back again through Facebook Live. So today what I want to talk to you about is charity care. Charity care is a national program that's run by every hospital in the U.S. It's designed to help poor and low-income people to have their hospital bills paid and managed so that if they can't afford to pay their hospital bills, that debt is removed and they no longer have that medical debt. It's just like most other needs-based disability programs, which I've talked about a few times. It's not perfect, it's not pretty, and it can be a bit of a bureaucratic hassle, but it is worth doing. Basically, if you are charity care eligible, you can have the entirety of your hospital bill forgiven completely. You don't owe anything. And in fact, I just got reimbursed by the hospital that I've been struggling with for the past 8 months. They just reimbursed me everything I gave them, both when I was billed while I was in the hospital as a patient, and all of the payments I made towards the debt that I didn't actually owe. So I got about $100 back on top of having my debt forgiven. And again, this is all money I gave them, but still, oh my God, I got reimbursed. That feels unheard of and amazing. So what's the story? You can apply for charity care before you go into the hospital if you know you're going in. Like, for example, one of the things that I did was I had to get an MRI under sedation because with my FND movement symptoms, me staying still for a prolonged procedure where I have to stay absolutely still, that's not happening. So, I recognized that and had to do it under sedation. Since I knew in advance I had an appointment scheduled, it would have been possible for me to set it up with charity care and basically start the application that day when I went into the hospital. But I didn't have the spoons to deal with it at the time, so I didn't. That means I had to wait to get the bill. And I had 3 different hospital stays at 2 different hospitals that I just finally got paid off. A big part of why it took that long was COVID-19, in all honesty, and the hassles that came with it. The hospital was disrupted, the programs that I needed were disrupted, things like that. But at any rate, charity care is available at all hospitals. Even private hospitals usually have some form or other of it. So what you can do is, if there's any chance you're eligible for this, and their definition of low income is more generous than the definition that most government programs offer. So my disability payment through SSDI is high enough that I am not in any way eligible for Medicaid coverage. I'm just not, because my income's too high, even though I'm living entirely on SSDI. So I only have Medicare coverage. That means I have a residual 20% of every bill that I'm responsible for. But when I go to the hospital, they look at my information and they say, you're low enough income for us, and so we'll pay 100% of your residual bill. I don't know the exact numbers, and the reality is every state will be different And it's possible that some hospitals will be more generous or less generous. So you're going to want to talk directly to your hospital. If you are distressed by your bills, it's worth having a conversation with them about your eligibility. Especially right now when so many people are losing their jobs or have lost their jobs. Sometimes even if you weren't eligible when you went into the hospital because you had too much money, they sometimes will actually forgive the debt if you later can't pay, which is why it's really a good idea to set up payment plans. I think it's really important to note that if there's any possibility at all of your debt being forgiven, it is worth the effort to call the hospital, tell them you can't pay now, and set up a payment plan. The reason why is the moment that debt goes to collections, there is no comfortable way to get that forgiven. A lot of people have paid money to collections and had it not properly acknowledged or had the debt already passed on or all kinds of really messy things. And if it goes into collections, it's already going to impact the amount of debt you're considered to have, and it already will then impact your credit score and things like that. So what you want to do is, as soon as you get a bill from a hospital, reach back out to the hospital and talk to them about their charity care program, and talk to them about setting up a repayment plan in the meantime. Because what I had to do was, one of the hospitals that I went to, I filed the charity care application. We thought it was complete. I mean, I went in, worked with a person, he and I did the paperwork together, and he's like, I can't see how they'll reject this. And they rejected it. Their issue was I had a printout that said that my Medicare Part D was removed from my check from a SSDI check before I got it. But it didn't have my identification information on it because I had to log in to get the information. And I also wrote a letter stating, this is my information, this is the, $10.90 that I have to pay every month for my Part D, and it's removed from my check before I get the check, because here's Social Security's statement saying what they pay me, and here's the amount that's actually in my account. Notice the $10.90 difference. They decided that wasn't good enough. What they wanted was an itemized receipt from my insurance provider. It took me 2 months to get it because they were not listening to me well, and they did not handle my information correctly, and a lot of incompetence on their end. The good news was, when I wrote a post about it, I thought to include the insurer in my tweet about my post. They responded instantly, started DMing me, and they connected me with a person who let me get the information faxed to me, and I had the information faxed into me less than a week after I wrote that post, after I'd spent 2 months trying and failing to get them to send me the information. So another really important thing is, if you're having problem not with the government part, because they're not going to care, but with an insurer or with any kind of private coverage, blast them on social media for whatever it is they're doing wrong. Make sure that they know. Name them. Call their attention to it. On Twitter, it's really easy. You just do @ the company. If it's United Healthcare, you say @ United Healthcare, whatever their identification is. Do that, and you've got a good chance of getting a quick DM saying, hey, What's wrong, and how can we make you happy now that you've made us aware that you're unhappy? I was kind of amazed. So please do that. Applying for charity care is a bit emotionally painful because you're doing the same stuff you do for any needs-based application. You're basically saying, hi, I'm poor, I can't afford this, help me. And sometimes they're very pedantic, they're very insistent that they get exactly the paperwork they want, exactly the way they want it, saying exactly what they want. It's worth it. Because if they grant you your charity care, boom, one, all that debt is gone, and two, you actually are covered by that hospital for the rest of the calendar year from when that care occurred, because your charity care application actually covers you for a calendar year. So I don't need the extra care. But when I got the MRI taken care of, I now don't have to reapply for charity care if I have to go back to that hospital for anything. They will automatically apply that discount, and I'll end up owing $0.00 after they take out my Medicare. I don't have to pay anything out of pocket. They're going to charge my Medicare. That's fine. I don't have to pay out of pocket. Okay? So it's really good, especially if you go to one hospital and have to go regularly. The other big thing to be aware of is that just because you are ineligible initially, if something in your life goes badly awry, you may be eligible for that forgiveness later. My partner and I went through this when he broke his hip. We got a pretty large hospital bill that fortunately his insurance covered a huge portion of. But he was left with several $1,000s of charges that he was expected to pay. And he lost his job because of the broken hip, and he couldn't return to work because of the broken hip. And so when he first applied for the forgiveness, they wouldn't do it because he'd been working and had a regular income. What they basically do is they take whatever the income was and then they average it over 12 months. So about 6 months in, as he'd been doing the payment plan every month, we called them back and said, hey, he still hasn't been able to find a job because of this injury. And they recalculated things, and the rest of the debt was forgiven. What he paid, he didn't get back because at that time he wasn't eligible. But, there was over $1,000 he never had to pay. He didn't owe. And that hospital could still treat him if he came there because they'd given him kind of carte blanche. His debt was forgiven and would remain forgiven if he incurred new debt in the course of that year. All right? So how do you get charity care? Like I said, every hospital has a charity care program of some sort. And so basically, either before you go, you call and say, I'm going to be having a procedure done. Can I apply for charity care? Or when you get the bill, you call and basically say, hi, I have this bill. I have this debt. I cannot pay it. I need to apply for charity care. And they'll send you to the charity care department and you'll go through the application process with them. They're going to want to know all your income, your assets, information like that. Like I said, it's pretty typical of any organization anything that's handling need-based information. They want to prove who you are, where you live, some of your basic expenses sometimes, and how much money you bring in every month. And they'll use that to decide what you need. They also will want to know who's in your household, so they know if they're talking about, a household of 1 or a household of 10. And whatever your household is, that's the financial information they want. So, yeah. Good stuff to know. Good things to do. And like I said, with the way everything has been, even if you go to the hospital and can't get charity care at that moment, set up a payment plan and talk to them later if you stay unemployed. Also, if you are applying for charity care, also if you don't have Medicaid, charity care is a way to help you get Medicaid, because Medicaid gives them some money, where if you're full on charity care, they don't get anything. The hospital just eats the bill, basically. So it's in their interest for you to get Medicaid if you're eligible. So you can go into the hospital, apply for charity care, and they'll say, are you Medicaid eligible? And if you think you might be, say, I don't know, or yes, I am, but I don't have it. And they'll help you through that whole thing. If you have Medicaid, you should not owe anything to the hospital. There are sometimes extra bills that they let get through. I know there's some laws that they're trying to prevent this, but like, for example, I had a residual bill from the anesthesiologist because he's not part of the hospital. It's messy, but any bill you get, talk to them about it. Charity care only covers the hospital bills, but that's usually a huge chunk of what you're being charged for. All right, I want everyone to take care. I've got 2 posts on charity care. I'm going to connect those in. And I hope you found this useful. And until next time, keep thriving.